All right, we are live. This is the Rabid Atheist. I am your host, Ed Raby, a former pastor turned atheist, now a compassionate anti-theist. Welcome to my channel. Um, if you haven't already, hit the like button, get the stream noticed. Today we're going to be going real deep into, dating advice. And relationship advice. Particularly we want to look at I'm a man back in the dating pool, and I was thinking about who could I go to get good Christian advice on what I should look for in a woman while I'm dating. And the first name that popped to mind was Alan Parr. Couldn't escape it. Alan Parr has been a guru for this for years. So who am I to question the expert on what people should be looking for when they're dating and what they're looking for in marriage and relationships? But Alan Parr, so there's that. So there's that. Oh, let's see who's here though. Oh, let's see. We got Fred. Jay Cal's here. Hey, Pinworm. Pinworm's here. Oh boy. Rimmer is here as well. Lisa's here. That's good. I don't want to do Alan Parr's advice about women without a woman present. So there's that. John, welcome from Holland. And there's Azho. Fred, are you doubting that Alan Parr might have good advice? Well, you don't like the theme song? You don't like the theme song? You don't like the theme song? Okay. But yeah, I'm what a more serious note to this, I guess, is is there's a lot of residue about relationships and what you're looking for in a relationship when you come out of Christianity. And so this actually might be a helpful exercise of knowing what Christians have this notion about every male female relationship. If it's not headed for matrimony, what's the point? And I think that's the biggest thing that I always, now when I watch them, it's like, oh, I used to think that way. And now I don't know, it's like there's going to be, so there's that. So it's the issue of who they marry is the biggest thing. It's like you can only have sexual relationships in the context of marriage. So it becomes a much more important decision for them about how they date and what they're looking for than I think a lot of other people. But at the same time, I think a lot of other people have much more realistic expectations and stuff. But we'll see. Maybe Alan will surprise us all this time, but I'm not holding my breath. That's it. Should never admit to enjoying sex or even have had sex. And that might be realist. That might be true inside the Christian context. I might agree with you there, Katie. So I know that that's what I used to preach, not necessarily the enjoying part, but the never admit that you've done it, and certainly don't talk about it. Hey, Alex, good to see you. All right, well, let's pull up Alan here, and I can't remember how old this video is. He is going to pull his stuff from the book of Ruth, so he's going to be talking about Miss Ruth in this one. So let's pull him up. We'll pause him so I can get the thing, and let's get the volume back up to a reasonable level. Just I have a reaction video to Alan Parr somewhere in my reaction videos. I think it's the one he does about slavery, but so there's that. There you go. So you are now fully qualified to be a Christian woman in a Christian church, remember? So I do think that if Satan and God exist, Yahweh exists, I'm going to go for I'm definitely going to go for Satan this next time around. The statute of limitations is passed. River. Okay. Oh, oh yeah. Hit it and quit it and then repent. There we go. That's probably true. All right. Well, let's see what Alan Parr has to say. He's always gonna. Yeah, he's definitely got the classic Christian T-shirt here. So definitely a classic. So let's see what he has to say.
A few weeks ago, I did a video on a guy named Boaz from the book of Ruth, encouraging the single ladies to look for some specific qualities in a man before you think about saying, I do. And in this video, we want to go back to the book of Ruth, and I want to give the single men some specific qualities that I want to encourage you to look for before you say, I do. Coming up. Hey, my friend, welcome back to The Beat. My name is Alan Parr. Thank you so much for tuning in. If this is your first time here, it's a pleasure. If you want a free ebook, click the link in the description box below. If you enjoy this video, consider subscribing. Hit that little bell notification so you won't miss a beat. Okay.
I don't recommend anything free from any Christian publisher. So you get what you pay for. But yeah, he's saying subscribe and like and all that. And I'm going to say that now. So there's that. So do all the things that you guys do. I appreciate that. So you're not going to do it. Okay. All right. Oh my goodness. Oh, a 6-year-old enticed me. Yeah. I think we're going to go see the thing about using Ruth, Katie, for those of you that come out of the Christian faith and come out of this stuff, I think we all kind of know where we're going with Ruth, but he's well, you know what? I'll just wait because it'll be funnier when it happens.
So, who you marry is literally the most important decision that you will ever make in your life, apart from accepting Jesus Christ as your personal Savior. So,
okay, I want to challenge that. I really, the thing about the way Christianity does things is they talk about these important decisions that you need to make, and the most important decision, of course, is you know accepting Jesus as your personal savior and all that stuff. But then the next most important thing, according to Alan here, is who you're going to marry. And I always love it how Christianity always pushes the marriage thing as being superior to anything else. So I've always found that interesting that that's the second most important thing. Like it's not your career, it's just something you're going to end up doing every flipping day and for the rest of your life, maybe, or you might want to switch midstreams. It's not how you treat life and death situations, like if your family member has some sort of terminal disease. No, the most important thing is who you're going to marry, right next to Jesus and that walk with him. So you got Jesus as your first part of your threesome, and now you're just looking for that threesome. So there's that. Oh, yes, God always comes first. Oh, yeah, probably. Yes, this is what you will get taught. Like if you're going into counseling, like you're looking for a partner, Alex, this is stuff that I probably, as a fundy preacher, would have probably said. Once I got past that, I got a little bit more practical as I got out of this crap. But this is, I could see, having watched this video already, I can see like a pastor sitting down with a bunch of young men and showing this to them and talking about it. So there's that. So yeah, I mean, it's all about picking the right. I don't know, the way Christians approach this. I have to say, it is very much like buying a car. It's like we're all going to dehumanize everybody and just kind of go after stuff. But he's got 5 essential qualities he wants in a godly woman. So there you go. And here we go. And he's going to use Ruth as an example. So here we go.
It's important that we get it right, and it's important for us to know exactly what qualities we should be looking for in a life partner. And today we're going to go to the book of Ruth, and we're going to look at none other than the star of the book, who is this girl named Ruth. And I'm going to give you 5 qualities, brothers, that you want to look at. And if you're a single lady, I want to encourage you to make sure that you have these 5 qualities so that you are the type of woman that a godly man would choose. Quality.
Okay. So it's what men should be looking for, and ladies, it's also what you should be doing. Okay, this is what Alan's aiming for. He's aiming for you, for both sexes, to take heed to this video. Men should be looking for these qualities in women, and women should be trying to emulate that. So, John, this is a real interesting question that I always talk about whenever this subject comes up, because I think falling in love and having the love story, I think, is really important. But I don't think Christians ever talk about that. You never can have a discussion about marriage and male-female relationships in the church without, some sort of, we got to put God first, and 2, sex, wait until you're married. So, I don't know. The way Christians describe this, Alex, is everybody is really going for this divine threesome. Okay, you're going for the right male-female combo, and then God they have to be in relationship with God too. So, yeah, that's the thing, Katie. It's like there's a lot of decisions you make that are right up there with marriage. And once you've made the decision to marriage, it's kind of a done deal until you want it to be a done deal. So just a silly phase you're going through. Okay. Oh, I'm not in love. Okay. There we go. All right. So here we go. Number 1, buckle up.
Number 1 is a woman who is committed. I want you to notice how committed Ruth is to her mother-in-law, Naomi. It says here in verse 16 and 17, "Don't ask me to leave you and turn back. Wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you live, I will live. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. Wherever you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord punish me severely if I allow anything but death to separate us."
Okay, so we got this here. Let's go back here just a tad so I can see the verse. So he's pulling it from the New Living Translation. Okay, great. Very readable. Also, like, butchers the translation quite a bit. So there's that aspect of it. But he says that the first quality that a godly woman should have is being committed. Now, I really think, and this is me being funny, I suppose, but you really need to define that word. Okay. Committed to what? I mean, he's talking about committed here. Ruth was very much committed to her mother-in-law, which is kind of a weird thing, even back then, but she just gloms onto Naomi, and they become like inseparable. And I don't know. I think you can be overly committed. I mean, when you're giving oaths to God, may the Lord punish me severely if we allow anything but death to separate us, that seems a little bit higher than the marriage vow. It's right up there. It's just really weird. Hey, Martin, good to see you. But yeah, this is the question I have whenever I read this verse now. It's like, so I want God to punish me severely what happens if, like, a band of marauders comes along, grabs Naomi, and leaves Ruth, and now they're never going to see each other again? I mean, I don't know. There you go, Katie. Oh, I got it. A woman should find another woman she can't live without, and marry the woman's son. Okay, there we go. Yeah, it's and David is going where I'm going. Committed to what? The funny farm. I mean, it's when don't get me wrong, he's going to say some good things here in a certain context. If I took it out of the Christian context, it's not bad advice per se. It's just the basis for this is really extreme. Ruth is very, very extreme in her loyalty to her mother-in-law. Uh, and I don't, I get it, so there's that. So God is definitely Satan. Yeah, that's probably true. No, but yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you need to find another woman you can't live without and then marry his son. Okay. There you go. All right. But yeah. All right. But let's see where Alan's going to take this little verse of scripture.
I allow anything but death to separate us. So if this is how committed Ruth was to her mother-in-law Naomi, you can only imagine how committed she would be to her husband. So the key is this, fellas. If you're trying to assess whether you should marry this woman or not, don't pay attention to how she treats you, because right now she's in the infatuation stage, she's in the emotional attachment stage, but pay more attention to how committed she is to things other than you, because eventually, over time, how she treats other people is going to be how she treats you. If she is constantly losing friendships, or if she's always at odds with other people, or if she has an attitude with other people, guys, I'm telling you, it's only a matter of time when that infatuation wears off that she's going to eventually treat you the same way she treats other people in her life. So look.
All right. So I can't completely disagree. I do watch people, I guess, and see how they treat others, because eventually I know it's going to come around to me. I guess I can buy that part. But at the same time, there's this subtle, don't have an attitude, ladies, kind of thing. Uh, it's Alan Parr giving advice to men about what they should look for in godly women. So, yes, a very high form of nonsense. Yes. Uh, but I understand this in the Christian context, because you're looking for, you know, I don't know. You also may run into the situation where somebody has treated a woman badly, and so they do have a negative reaction to some people. But Katie's even saying it is a valid point. Watching how a person treats others. They're at first, when you're really romantically involved, I can buy the part of being infatuated with each other, and so you don't see each other's flaws as well, and they treat each other, everybody treating each other well, but that's you. They're going to have longer term relationships with other people. Okay, so it's like you can see how they treat people that they've been in a long term relationship with, their parents, their siblings, things like that. So there's a valid point underneath all the Christianese here, but at the same time, I also picked up, the whole attitude thing. Don't have a bad attitude. I don't know. What do you define as a bad attitude? I mean, if the woman you're dating is dealing with somebody who was abusive to them and they act like snots back, I can absolutely understand. So, if you might want to have a conversation of why they have this attitude towards people. So it's not a bad point in general of watching other people do their thing and see how there is, yeah, if you kind of treat your friends better than you do, that's a valid point. A good Christian boy never cheats on his mother. Oh, yeah, they may not be as committed to other people, but there's a veiled good point here. I always try to give the devil their due when they actually make a decent point, but this I don't need the Bible for. I really don't. I don't need any Christian values for. It's just basically watch how a person treats other people that they've had a long-term relationship with, because that's probably where you're heading. Maybe it would be this is how they treat other people. So there's that. Yeah, it is a heads up. You're trying to get into that friendship space, and yeah, so they're going to, if they treat certain people better than they treat you, they're probably going to pick those people over you too. So if push comes to shove, so not a bad point, but we'll see. I'm sure Alan will mess up at some point. I'm just waiting for when.
specifically for a woman that has a track record of being committed to people and committed to things. The second quality that I want to encourage you to look for is a woman who is a team player. I want you to notice just how supportive Ruth was to her mother-in-law, Naomi, who for whatever reason did not choose to go out and work because they were struggling to provide for themselves. And this was Ruth's response in chapter 2. One day, Ruth the Moabite said to Naomi, "Let me go out into the harvest fields to pick up the stalks of grain left behind by anyone who is kind enough to let me do it." So what we see here is that Ruth was willing to do whatever it took to provide for her family. She wasn't some little prima donna or diva that was above getting her nails dirty. She said, "Hey, we need..."
All right. I don't know. I get the value of being a team player. I probably learned a hell of a lot playing football because there were people I didn't like on that team, but we still worked together to achieve a common goal. And I get the team player aspect, but I think that's true of anybody. I don't, I'm always looking for somebody who understands the value of cooperation, regardless of personal feelings. So, yeah, I don't know. Likes a double team. Yeah, she was pretty close to her mother-in-law. It always makes me wonder. Yeah, we're going to get to that, Filbert, because I think Alan Parr makes a very grave biblical error later in this presentation about that. So we'll see that. Well, yeah, because Katie, because you got God involved in this relationship too. I always love God being part of the relationship because it makes every Christian relationship a choice. It's always true. It's always a threesome. So, well, it's possible, but I don't think so. Ruth was married to one of Naomi's sons. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, the incest thing is there too. But yeah, Fred makes a valid point, which is amazing. Humans are individual. Every human is different. Generalizations are extremely dangerous. Yeah, I mean, it's you really got to assess each individual, I think. And the problem with Christians is the false dichotomy is king, and you also have these generalizations about people outside the faith, and generalizations about men and women that are dangerous too. But yes, Filbert, we'll deal with that. So we'll deal with that because he makes a mistake here, and he doesn't bring something up that he should have. First time I asked him, she agreed only because she didn't have anything better to do. Oh yeah, sometimes they do make you fight for it. Force them with Jesus, yeah, because we got dad and the child. I mean, I don't know. We should have probably added that to our red flags with Jesus, is that he always wants to be involved with whatever dad's doing. So yeah, me, myself, and I, the Holy Trinity. Yeah, that's probably true. Probably true. All right, so we want the girl to be committed, and we want her to be a team player.
To eat, you're not able to work, so let me go out and do what I need to do. So fellas, once again, there may be times in your marriage where you may not be able to work, or you may be between jobs and you're struggling to find work. You don't want that woman to say, well, what are we going to do now? You want somebody to say that if this is what I need to do for a season until you get back up on your feet, I'm willing to do whatever it takes in terms of what's best for our team. The third.
Okay, so got to deal with the Christian assumption that the man's going to work and the woman's going to stay at home and make babies, preferably man-child. I don't get this part anymore because you're always like trying to protect the male ego from not having a job. Okay, but I just, this part bothers me now. Because it's like I can't see in the modern context where, if somebody wants to work, supporting yourself is just so important. And I see so many women that are Christian women. They put themselves in a position, if something happens to their husband, they are screwed. Okay. And it happens so often when I was in the ministry, because I was always dealing with widows who lost their husband and then didn't know how to support themselves. You've got situations where the guy loses a job, can't find employment, no matter what he does, and then that gets frustrating. Um, it's it's a different world, and I don't think that this idea works very well. My advice to Christian women often becomes, hey, you better make sure you have something for yourself, because, on the one hand, this whole thing with Alan Parr is dangerous for women because they don't really develop anything that they can call their own to provide for themselves if something happens, because you're in a marriage partnership, you're kind of sharing everything. And that's kind of the point, part of the point anyway. But it also, he's really trying to protect the male ego. It's only for a season, fellas. And it's like, what happens if the situation develops and it really truly becomes, the lady can go out, get a really good job, make a hell of a lot of money, but that means that the best situation is the guy stays home, takes care of the kids. Can Christianity even accept that? And that's really something that bothers me about this. It's not a good situation to tell women that their only major purpose is to stay home and raise kids. And I get a little nervous about that for the women I see in Christian relationships, that everything, part of their identity is built on having children and raising them. And then what happens if something happens to the guy? It's like, or the relationship goes sour and they're divorced. Now what do you got? Okay, so there's that. Yeah, I see that a lot. It's amazing how many people work where I work that are older women. And now they've got to settle for Walmart because they don't really have any career stuff. Now, don't get me wrong. Some of them excel very well once they get into that mode, but they're older. And the reason they're working so late in life is because they never had anything before, because their husband did everything. So yeah, I don't know. It's you have a cave in a tent. Okay. Yeah. But so I don't know. I get what he's saying from a Christian context. I just don't agree with the context anymore. So moving along, let's see what number 3 is. Let's see if you ladies will like this one.
Characteristic is a woman that has a submissive spirit. So I want you to notice that several times in the book of Ruth, Ruth submits herself willingly to the desires and the direction of her mother-in-law, Naomi. In chapter 2, verse 22, it says, "Good," Naomi exclaimed, "do as he said, my daughter. Stay with his young women right through the whole harvest. You might be harassed in other fields, but you'll be safe with him." Verse 23, so Ruth worked alongside the women in Boaz's field. Then in chapter 3, Naomi gives Ruth some very practical advice that we're going to talk about in just a moment. And then Ruth's response, once again in verse 5, was this: "I will do everything you say," Ruth replied. Guys, this is huge. I wouldn't even consider spending the rest of my life with somebody until I knew for sure that she was able to be under some sort of spiritual covering. And this is why. When, not if, you get into an impasse or a difficult situation in your marriage, you need to know that you have somebody that you can appeal to, somebody that she has given the right to speak into her life, somebody that she is willingly submitted under, so that whenever she's not listening to you, she's not listening to God, you know with confidence that there's someone that she trusts, someone that you trust, that is hearing from God, that can give her spiritual wisdom that she is willing to listen to. Because, my friend, listen, if she is not able to submit herself to someone else's spiritual authority other than you, then chances are that she's probably not going to submit to yours either. And the fourth.
Okay, so the whole submission thing, she submits to another woman, she submits to this, she submits to that. And you want to look for signs of submission because someday it's going to be you. So, as the husband, and she's got to submit to you. So, uh, yeah, being the sub. Yeah. You have no opinion. Your wife sure. Yeah, you should really keep your opinions to yourself, Filbert, at this moment. Um, I think so too. Alan Parr has this energy level, and I think it's artificial. I really do. So yeah, silence is a very golden thing. Oh my goodness. I don't know. When you look at the way the Bible treats women, definitely property level, but also supposedly human level. So they occupy this really weird spot between cattle and human beings. And when you study the Bible about this whole thing, it's very much a submission kind of thing. There's this whole domination submission thing that's a part of the relationships, and it helps you get used to, from an indoctrination point of view, it helps people get used to the idea of God, who you're supposed to love and be afraid of at the same time. Like there's supposed to be this fear aspect to God, like you're not supposed to piss him off, because he might punish you. At the flip side, you're supposed to love him. And so it's like a very sadomasochistic relationship. And part of the way you teach acceptance of that is the way marriage is treated in the Bible, because it's the same thing. Like he talked a few seconds ago about a covering, and that's the whole, God head of man, man head of the woman covering thing. And so, I don't know. It's kind of one of those things where a societal element is used to help you understand and have a certain relationship, not just with your spouse, but with your God. And so it's that aspect of it. So it very much is a slavery kind of aspect of it. I don't think modern marriage. I think the problem is Christians always like to take the ownership of the word marriage and define it the way they want to, and you can't really do that anymore. So, well, if you're into BDSM, I guess the Christian relationship and the Christian marriage is right up for you. But yeah, if it's not a partnership, it really is a master slave relationship. So it's like you're if you're not looking for a partner, if you're looking for a wife that's always submissive, or if you're a woman looking for a man to submit to, what are you looking for here? Okay, I always get worried when I hear a Christian woman say, "I'm looking for a man to submit to." I've already seen this on dating profiles since I've been using my dating app. It's like these Christian women, I'm looking for a man good enough for me to submit to. And it's like, why is that even part of the equation? Why is that? Why is that thing even a thing? So, this is the essence of it. Why should I obey you, husband? Husband, God said so. Yeah. Hey, Kristen, welcome. You picked the right time to join the stream. Yeah, that it's not a title of ownership. Even legally today, it's not really a title of ownership. It's a title of legal relationship. And that's why I don't know if I'm aiming for a partnership, but I don't know if I'm aiming for a legal marriage again. So there's just a lot of aspects of that I just don't think I need. And so there's that. So, but yeah, I knew the submission thing was going to get in here, that he's going to tell Christian men to look for a submissive female. If they don't submit in other areas of their life, then they're probably not going to submit to you, and that's going to be a problem. So yeah, there's that. Yeah, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, to me, the relationship should be defined as something between the two people. It's the old, the relationship is the thing in between you, and you both have the right to define it and come up with a definition together. But usually with Christianity, they run to the Bible to define what the relationship is should be. And then, of course, the man immediately has the power because he's the immediate one that's dominant, and the woman has to submit. So you have to have that issue in it. So there's that. Hey, Evan, good to see you. Uh, eh, oh, well, happens. I don't get it either. I find equality very attractive. I'm looking for a woman that knows how to take the lead when it's a good thing. Like, it's, to me, if you're in a good partnership, there are times when one partner takes the lead because that's what they're good at in that particular context. And then the next situation, you switch it over and the other person takes the lead, or you divide up the leadership role into certain things. And I would rather have that. I found that Christian marriage was always a lot of pressure on me to provide leadership, and I didn't always feel qualified to be the person calling the shots at the particular moment all the time. And it is, as much as women, like, rightly complain about this arrangement in Christian marriage, I would say that it also puts a lot of pressure on men, when really it could be alleviated by saying, hey, you know what, you're better at that, my lovely wife. Go do that. You take the lead on that and I'll follow your lead. Having the ability to do that in a partnership, I think, is gold. Is understanding your limits and understanding their limits, and you know each other well enough that you can trust each other to take the lead at the right time. I think that's very important. So yeah, and but yeah, Alec, it is definitely more beneficial for men. The Bible is very slanted to benefiting men, so quite high. Submits to me or go to hell. Yeah. Oh. Uh, that's separate from any part. Yeah, and I've told people that you can get the same thing a marriage will get you just by going to a lawyer and defining legally what the parameters of the marriage relationship is. You don't need it. Don't follow rabbits. Follow rabbits around here. Fangs will be upset. Oh man. I'm big into this time, that, if I feel like the woman in my life that I eventually has is better at leading in certain situations, I'm gonna let her. Go ahead. Take the pressure off, and then I'll lead when it's my expertise. So, and if we're really like shrugging our shoulders, but the automatic man head of woman thing, I just do not want in my next relationship at all. I don't want that. That is so set up for fail. Yeah. So, uh, probably you, Ann. So there's that. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I've been volunteered for that, but I know which one probably had the courage to do it. And it was probably Ann. So I know you too well now, Ann. I think that's the problem. I think you're the one that's going to go down and check it out. So I don't know. I know they're supposed to do the coffee though, Alex, because it's he brews, not she brews. So so you get, if you're in a Christian relationship, the man brews the coffee. So that's his job. So it is a good question, Alex. Yeah, it's good to follow Rabyd atheists. It's good for the algorithm. It really is. Yes, I kind of figured. Oh, yep. Good old 12 gauge every time. Oh, bear harassing the goat. Where do you live, Kristen? You must live in the boonies enough to have bear. Um, okay, so it's got to be, is it beer brewing? Okay, so anything involving brewing is the man's job because of Hebrews. So there we go. Yeah, okay. I can buy that. It's kind of like around where I live too, because we have black bears, so which are making a comeback in the lower peninsula of Michigan. So, and we have a lot of things actually. I think they just recently sighted a moose in the lower peninsula, so that effort is working. So, uh, premarital counseling session, I would skip over all the submission stuff, just talk about how they met and talk about the service. You know, here's the thing about that, Filbert. When I was a minister, I used to get this too. And I actually had one woman request that I remove the submission part from her vows. So, she said, I'm not doing that. So, it so there's that. But yeah. So it I think a lot of ministers these days skip over that part. I wouldn't deny that that happens because I know it's not a popular item. But I've literally had at least one woman ask me to take it out of the vows, and so I crossed it off, and so there was never any submission in that relationship. So it ended up being of good partnership, and still is, as I understand it. They're still married, so. There you go. You refuse to obey too. There you go. That's according to the Christians. Yes, absolutely. That the whole vows are necessary. The submission aspect. If you listen to a fundamentalist pastor counsel marriage, it will absolutely. The key to success of this marriage is man being the dominant one and women being the submissive one. They will absolutely preach that to death. So. Oh, okay. All right. All right. Maybe I'll see you there. This will not be allowed down anymore. Probably not. No, but I'm encouraged because there's also reports about the wolves, the timber wolves that live in the UP. That there have been scattered, unconfirmed reports that wolves have made it back to the lower peninsula, at least the northern part as well. So I'm a wolves guy. So. Yeah. Yeah, we were talking yesterday about what to do with rosary beads. So, how do you recycle rosary beads? And that was a wrong question to ask. So, so I had to admire the woman at the time because she was basically saying, "I'm not going to do this, so I'm not going to vow to it and automatically break my vows within a week." And I really should do a video on the marriage vows and why they're impossible to keep. So, um, yeah, you missed the rosary part because we were talking yesterday in the deconversion hangout about you have all this Christian stuff after you deconvert, what to do with it. Of course, I got the typical, well, if it's burnable, it's good kindling. But I'm like, what do you do with crucifixes and rosary beads and the phylacteries that Jewish people wear on their foreheads, little boxes, all that stuff. So, and I brought up the rosary beads. That was a mistake. So, so yeah, there's that. But all right, let's get back to Alan. I'm sure he's got a few more points, but we're up to submission already. So there we go. But I wonder what 4 is.
quality that I want to encourage you to look for is a woman who values sexual purity.
Oh, I
I
knew
want
it
you
was
to notice
coming.
here in chapter 3 that Ruth actually had the opportunity to try to entice Boaz before they were married, and one night they were cuddled up next to each other, but the Bible says this about Ruth. So Ruth lay at Boaz's feet until the morning. Man, you
Okay, he completely skips over the euphemism where it says go uncover his feet. Okay, now I hate to say this, but there's pretty good evidence that in Hebrew that is an idiom for go jump on the guy's you know what. So it's there's a lot of debate among Hebrew scholars what exactly happened on the threshing floor. Okay, and that expression, go uncover his feet, may very well be that they did it. Okay. That she went in and found him sleeping and, did the thing. Okay. So uh, it's, he completely skips over that and goes, so well, he lay at her feet, his feet until morning. Well, of course, there's only two of them in the room. I mean, who's telling this part of the story? you know, um, I don't. Yeah, it's entering the bed from the bottom end, sneaky, very sneaky. Especially, this is, you know, I'm sorry, I'm a heterosexual man to know enough that if you start at the feet, you're going to run into something first. As a woman, so I don't know if Alan Parr is aware of this Hebrew problem because it was a big discussion item when I was learning Hebrew because we hit this thing. So it's like, the uncovering his feet thing, go in and uncover his feet. It's like that might be a euphemism for go in and have sex with a guy. You know, yeah, it's a feet kink. It's a feet fetish, I guess. So, but so there's a debate about what happened on the threshing floor. Okay, there really is. Like you know, Boaz actually says something to her during the story about how he he admires her because she hasn't chosen the young men but went after an old guy. So Boaz is an old dude compared to her. So, you got that issue that's in there, but Alan just completely jumps right over and talks about sexual purity when there is a part of this passage, a part of Ruth's story that kind of indicates that maybe not so pure. Okay. Yeah. I mean, when you look at Naomi's advice, it's very much, look good. He's actually going to talk about that, I think, is his last point. But she tells Ruth, hey, go take a bath, put on your perfume, put on your nice clothes, and go uncover his feet. It's like, I I don't know. Well, I mean, the thing is, they're out, it's harvest time. So they're out, Boaz is in the threshing room and the women are out harvesting grain. And, instead of going home, they just put down for the evening. So it's like, but this whole advice that Naomi gives, if you read the book of Ruth, it's very much about seduction. Like we're going to nail Boaz because he's A, rich, and B, he owns the land. So, it's very much very much a very interesting problem that he just kind of skips right over. Yeah, it's hard to sell sexual purity when you have war brides. Definitely, definitely one of those. So, uh, I I don't know if I knew too much about translation to believe in one translation more than another. Captive Dave. Uh, I use the New American Standard Version a lot because it was a more accurate translation into English and at least an eighth grade or higher level. Like it was actually like a college level English. And so you get more accuracy out of that one. It's just not very readable to a lot of people. So that's why a lot of people like the NIV. It's more readable, but it's not as accurate. You really have a choice in translation. Either be accurate and find the most accurate word, but it's going to make it a higher reading level, or you drop down the reading level and you fix it. Yes. Yes. Ruth is threshing and Boaz is sowing. Yes. Well, that's the thing. The whole thing with Ruth and all that is to tell about this particular part. Why is there a Moabitess in the lineage of David? That's the whole thing. And so they're telling the story to justify this part of it. But I don't know. I think that's also part of the story. Like, he was drunk. So this isn't really consensual either. So uh, there's that. So that's probably true. Oh, but yes, it's it. Alan is like preaching sexual purity on a part of the passage where it could very well be that Ruth is just straight up being told to bathe. I mean, why bathe if you're not going to do anything? Why put on the perfume if you're not going to do anything? Get dressed nice, go to the guy where he's sleeping with his men where they're a little bit toasted from drinking all the alcohol, and uncover his feet. What the hell? And there's a lot of not said in this story, and I think that's one of the things. There's that aspect of it. Hey, Dave. When I was a fundy, though, KJV was part of the argument. I like the KJV poetically, but then again, I like reading Shakespeare too. So, I'll let you go do, Bren. But good to see you. I hope you're doing well. Yeah, I mean, the sexual purity angle I have never understood when you consider the examples in the Bible. Okay, like, you have this one where Lot's daughters basically, seduce him, get him drunk enough that he can't tell the difference. So that's not a consensual act either. So there's no sexual purity in that. The very fact that a lot of these, it's one thing if you want to be poly, I guess, and everybody's consensual into it, but a lot of the polygamy in the Old Testament is just guys having extra options to have children. So you got David with his 10 concubines and his 7 wives, and Solomon going overboard with it. So it's the notion that this is about romance and finding the one that God wants you to have. I don't see that in the Old Testament characters. So they just we're going to grab as many women as possible, and one of them has to be the right one, right? So yeah, you got, as David says, you got to catch them all. You got to catch them all. So I don't know. David and Jonathan, but that's kind of a homosexual relationship if you really look into it. So David and Jonathan seem to get along pretty well. Trust me, I'm trying. So, but yeah, I mean, there's very few good relationships in the Bible. I don't know. Isaac and his wife seem to be okay until they get to the whole favoring one son over the other. But that's just bad parenting. It doesn't necessarily mean that their relationship was bad. So, but yeah, trying to find a good relationship in the Bible. I don't know. Jesus and the disciple that he loved, whoever that was. So, oh, it's quite possible, Martin. So, yeah, Job and his friendly. Well, actually, that's Jonah, but then you have Job. Job and his wife aren't really that good. There's no real good male-female relationships in the Bible, and it's probably because, yeah, Jesus and the disciple he loved. Okay, see, I know where you guys are going with all this stuff. That's why I have a hard time mentioning anything. Yeah, Jonah. Yeah, Jonah. I don't know. He got swallowed by a whale, so there's that dirty joke. Um, so there's that. He found a whale that knew how to swallow. So there you go. I don't think Ember. I don't know. Alan Parr is just not doing it for us. I don't know what that is. I am just shocked. This time, just Alan Parr is just disappointing me. Oh yes, but Ember, there's probably, if you want to be a good godly Christian woman, Ember, I'm sure Alan's got some advice for you. So, oh, oh, you smell like fish. Yeah, I suppose that's probably the problem. Yeah, good relationships don't sell books. So yeah. Yeah, she saved his life, whale or not. I'm just to me, as a former preacher, I preached all these stories many, many times. And the problem is, I also, even as a Christian, have a dirty mind. And so when, Jonah gets swallowed by the whale, that has a completely different connotation when you're dirty minded. So, uh, yeah, as Phil was pointing out, let's look at Jesus's lineage. We have Tamar, who played the harlot in order to genuinely nail a guy's head to the floor. You got a Rahab, who is a prostitute. He's through the line of Bathsheba, David. So we have a couple that commits adultery. And then Mary gets pregnant out of wedlock. So yeah, there's a lot of, when the women are mentioned in the Bible in the New Testament, it's usually pretty bad. It's really, really bad. So it's like they're not, you have to explain them away. And Ruth is another one. He's using Ruth, but she was a Moabitess, so they had to explain away why she was in the line of David. What's a Moabitess doing here? So yeah, I know. I try to be serious, and you guys just mess it up. It's a thing. Welcome to the Rabyd Atheist. Fangs, bunny, and all. So, um, that would swallow. Okay. Oh, hey, how you doing? Yes, we all come with evil confidence. I'm not surprised by that at all. I I remember a preacher once getting after women for that. She's like, "You don't want your man to be into porn. Why are you into romance porn?" And yeah, it became an issue at times about it. So, actually, Brent, I'd love to see it. When you're finished with it, I'd love to see it. So, but yeah, that it, I'm still wrestling with the whole relic thing and what to do with Catholic stuff. So, so there's that. Oh no, I'm not that surprised, honestly. Uh, there you go. Uh, I have told people that romance novels create the same unrealistic expectations in women that porn does in men. So it's like none of this is realistic, and you need to remember that. So they're designed to sell. The romance novel business. If I could write romance novels, I'd be rich. So yeah, it doesn't take much. So all right, let's see what Alan's going to say next. we're getting to the sexual purity part. Let's see if he's going to say anything
I want
useful.
somebody that values sexual purity because, first of all, it shows that she has restraint. It shows that she has the ability to exercise self-control in that area, because whenever you get married, you need to have the confidence that she can exercise that same self-control. Now, ladies, let me tell you why this is so important in relationships and what happens whenever you decide to give yourself sexually to a man before you get married. First of all, the man is probably going to be less inclined and less motivated to marry you in the first place because
I cannot confirm or deny whether what Alan Parr is saying here is true. I've seen the research all over the place, but it's like, just because you are banging doesn't necessarily mean that the person's thinking less of matrimony with you or partnering up with you. In some people's cases, it's kind of like, I don't want to be in a long-term relationship unless I know what the sex life is going to be like. Okay. I think it's really one of the weirdest things that Christians do is, I don't know what it's going to be like to have sex with this person, and we're going to wait until after we're married to find out. I don't know. So it's that issue. The thing is, Anne Marie, I am baffled by relics and how they're even a thing to this day. I don't get it. She's going to tell you no. Okay. Yes, we don't like women that put out. No, that's not. Yeah, I don't know if Alan Parr is accurate here, because think I don't think modern people look at sex this way. I think there's always a dirty connotation to sex with Christian advice. And so it's one of the problems as a pastor I used to deal with after people were married, because they would be having sexual trouble because they had been trained all the way through youth to think of sex as something bad. And then they get married and now it's still in their brain that it's bad. And so, yeah. Not really cool. Okay. Oh, maybe. So you can morally have sex is perfectly understandable and dangerous, ridiculous all at the same time. Yes. Yeah. I don't get this part of it anymore, because I think by Alan saying that, that they're going to be less inclined, that's kind of training. It's indoctrination, because it doesn't necessarily follow. I guess I'd like to see the research that shows more than just a correlation, that there's actually a cause here, but I don't get it. I'm sorry if I'm going to engage in a long-term relationship with a female. Like, I'm very skittish about, my body count is still one, my ex-wife, and I know people don't always necessarily believe that, but it's true. And I just talked with my therapist about this Wednesday, that it's going to take, I'm not just looking for hookups. And so, I want that part of it to be something that builds the relationship, but I'm not going to wait until after we're together to have sex with that woman. I want to know that that part of the relationship is going to work, so yeah, it can screw up your life. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's a typo. Okay. I think, Michael Wolf, you might be correct, because there is a law in the Bible that if you want a certain woman to be your wife, just go have sex with her and pay dad the 20 shekels, and then you're good. So, so. Asked my current wife out is because I was told she would put out on the first date, but she didn't. Okay, well, there you go. There you go. part of the theatrical pomp and circumstance of the time of life when I believed all that nonsense, including Phantom, etc. It's all cringe to me now. Okay. It's not enough for a good, strong, long-term relationship, but good grief, if you don't know what that's going to be like until after you say I do, I now kind of look at that as kind of like, eh, it was a large part of my, so, so that was just, it's something that I think you should know ahead of time before you say this is going to be for life, quote unquote. And the problem I've always had with the sexual purity cult part of Christianity is you really set up a lot of marriages to be sexually miserable. And I dealt with that all the time as a pastor. Like we did the right thing and we waited, but now we're miserable because this area just seems so problematic. Yes, it's just less taxing. Hey, Earl, finally left. Oh, it was the staying part that was painful. Oh, Earl, I feel for you. I feel for you. Oh, the leaving part was bad too. So it's all that. I won't do that. I wouldn't rat you out. You're okay. Oh, just make shit up. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Acquiring wines, I don't know. All right, Alan, you said this is number one of in Reason Force, find a woman that wants sexual purity. He's addressing the women, and the first thing he says is, this is going to make the guy less inclined to want to actually marry you. So, in theory. Yeah, I suppose. I don't know. I think it's good to have expectations in a lot of things. But let's see what Alan's got, like 3 things he wants to tell women about sexual purity. So as a man, I'm sure he's more than qualified to talk about this.
He's already getting his main needs met, and so why would he rush down to the altar to marry you whenever he's getting everything that he really wants already? The second thing that happens is you start to wonder, does this man really want me for me and my mind and my soul and my spirit and everything about me, my personality, my brain, my dreams, my goals, or is this man simply after it for the physical and what he can get out of it? Does he just want me for my body? You don't want to be wondering about that, and whenever you decide to shut it down and not give up the goods to this guy, you can know for sure that this guy really wants you for you if he's willing to wait and respect you and also respect God. And then finally,
I'm glad he put the little text by underneath it. It's not sure that it cuts out all the phonies or anything like that, but yeah. So there's that of it. Oh, yeah. See, that's my thing, Anne-Marie, about the relics. I know this is a sidebar rabbit trail, but it's the Rabyd Atheist, so we have rabbit trails. So, but that's the thing. Like, these relics disappear from public view on the reg. Like, I'm thinking of like St. Valentine's relic that supposedly sprouts thorns and roses every year, but nobody's got a camera on this thing the whole time. All of a sudden they just pull back the curtain and there's the roses and crap and stuff like that. So it's just that's kind of the thing that bothers me the most. So I don't know. I don't know. It bothers me in the modern age. That I've literally had Catholics come on this channel and argue with me about the fact that relics are such this proof of God. So yeah, that's probably most of it. Yeah, puppies tire older dogs out. That's just the way it is. Christians and reconcile modern thinkers not understanding. Okay, there we go. Yeah, and that's my thing. I looking back at it, this whole purity culture line of thinking just made sex so awkward, because you're told that the only proper place to do it is in marriage, and then you get married, and it's still awkward because you don't know each other. It takes forever. I mean, and I think you have these expectations about what's going on and all that stuff, and they just don't have it. So there's that. Yeah, judging is a survival trait. Thank you, Pinworm. I appreciate the support. Outstanding. I do appreciate that. Um, eh. I would agree with that too, because I think this is where Christians put an overemphasis on the need of the man is just sex. That's a load of shit. Um, I left my wife because other needs were not getting met. It had very little to do with sex. It had a lot to do with who are we as a couple now that we're not a pastor and pastor's wife. And when you discover that 99% of your marriage is based on the call of God and following the call of God, and you don't really have anything else, that becomes detrimental. But I have other needs other than the sexual one. Don't get me wrong, it's a high one, but it's not the only thing I have. And I think this is where Christians make the horrible mistake in judging of men on this issue, is like they're all about the sex. I don't know. I've read a lot of guys about this. It's much more of, yeah, I want the sex, but I also want it in a context of a relationship where I'm treated well. So there's that. It's not just the physical. So out of context and try to support with others arguing all the time. You should see his video on Bill. Yes, I've actually reacted to his video on biblical slavery. It's in my reaction videos. So if anybody wants to check that out, yeah, but I do react to Alan Parr. I think I reacted to Alan Parr on slavery, and I was very disappointed in his one. So yes, we have rabid trails. Yes, we do. Yeah, there we go. A chastity belt made out of foreskin leather. That is what foreskins are for. We've had this debate before. So there's that. Oh my goodness. Yeah, thanks, Fred. Appreciate you. And here they come. And Martin as well. Thank you, Martin. Appreciate you. But yes. Yeah, prove magic exists first, then holy relics. And then, of course, I always appreciate the 666. It makes my day every time. Yeah, I'm sure I bet you they're out there, but the fact that they've been debunked, but Catholics still run to them as proof of God just drives me insane. Like, so, yeah, that's true. Yeah, relic of the blood staff. Yes, I've heard of that one. So there's that. Yeah, he is kind of embarrassing. If I was a Christian, I definitely would still be embarrassed by Alan Parr, because it's like, dude. Yeah, I have noticed that, Ember. It's amazing. I even I heard one person say that, like, even the cross is phallic in a certain way. There's just so many things. Like, the Catholics and Christian churches seem to like their obelisk type symbols too. So, and the way they dress, yes, the Pope very much looks like a very large dick. Yes, so he does, and that's probably because it's also true. So, all right, wrapping up the goddamn gods. Okay, there we go, and the mob. There we go. There we go. Oh. Yeah, probably. That's just not the way it works. Yeah, welcome to Friday night, people. Yeah. Yeah, that's the other thing. I mean, it says if I want to talk purity culture, Catholic Church has got the Protestants beat because the Protestants will at least say, "Hey, if you accidentally do something, here's a condom." But you know, the the church will get after you for that. So there's that. Oh, yeah. I would if they have a steeple, you're definitely right. And my old church had a steeple, and I used to laugh about it every once in a while. So I just look like them. Oh, is still no condoms for the Catholic Church? Oh my God. Uh, so wrong on so many levels. Okay, so Alan Parr's done two things here. Are you meeting all, if he's getting his needs met, what are you going to think? Is he going to think about you? He's not going to get married to you. I wonder what
Ladies,
three
whenever you
is.
give yourself sexually to a man, you can struggle to discern the quality and the strength of the relationship, because what happens is whenever you give yourself physically, your emotions are all involved and your body follows. And so now you're all confused whether you really like this guy, whether you really love this guy, because you're listening to your body, you're listening to your heart, you're listening to all these different voices in your mind, and it's just not clear. And sometimes this guy may not be right for you, but because you're already emotionally and physically invested, you're not able to even see clearly enough to be able to figure out that this guy is not for you.
Okay, so in Christianity, the nut fog isn't on the male side, it's on the female side. That's what I'm hearing. Like if you're having sex with a guy, you women can't think straight. That somehow it's all going to be about emotions at that point. So, no, I probably did miss it. Everybody's missing jokes. There's so many jokes today, Earl. It's been They made them illegal. How the hell? Never mind. Punchable voice thing. Yeah, he has a punchable voice. I, I I wouldn't disagree with you there. Yes, I would say this is one thing that Christopher Hitchens used to bring up a lot whenever he debated the Catholic Church. It was a constant thing with him. He says, death by AIDS is a really bad thing, but not as bad as wearing a condom. And he definitely humped. He smashed on that hard all the time. It's like, you Catholics are responsible for those people's death. So yes, the sex demons. But yeah, I'm listening to Alan here on his third point, and he's basically saying it, ladies, once you start having sex with the dude, you can't think about the relationship anymore. And I've heard that that's the other way around. Okay, once the guy's been doing it. So I don't know. I mean, this is really weird that he focuses on the women, saying, "Oh, you're going to be even more." He's already kind of made a point about women being irrational in the first place, and now he's saying you're going to get more irrational because you're having sex with a dude. So, yeah, Inquisition. Yes, she did the same thing too. It was one of those really bad things that happen in history. The Catholic Church has been on the wrong side of this for so long. A lot of people are just dead because of it. Uh, Parents are brought to blame the girls for being too sexy just about everywhere. How about making sure your kids aren't assholes? Well, that's a plan. Yeah, I skipped a lot of the dating advice from Christians as I was researching for tonight, trying to find a good video. And there are so many where these women are asked to come up to men and ask what's wrong with my outfit from a Christian point of view. And these men then describe how, it's like, dude, you're literally telling me what's turning you on right now. Okay. So, oh my goodness. Yeah. Uh, yes. Yes. Yeah. The ban on condoms is damn evil, but I don't know. This is this is, I don't know, this part where he interrupts the sexual purity to talk to the women with 3 points is a little cringe to me, but I just don't buy it anymore. Okay, I don't think that sex is that much of a foggy brain thing that it causes you not to think about your relationship with the person. Yeah, that is the problem. And there's a lot of verses that talk about women being in control of themselves. I think Jesus is the only one that really hits the lust issue, and then it makes it nearly impossible not to be a sinner at that point. So yeah, but there is a definite lot of push on girls dress the right way. But when I was researching for this video, I was like amazed at how many videos were out there where women were coming up to Christian men and asking what's wrong with my outfit. And I'm like, really? So, Paul did. Yeah. He was the first one to advocate for celibacy. But St. Augustine is the one who pushed it through the Catholic Church. Good luck with that. I don't understand that mentality. I'll be honest, Joe. I'm going to tell you straight. As an atheist, I think that's just part of human nature. And it's religion that teaches you to be ashamed of it. And I just don't see it that way anymore. I don't think sexual desire is something to be ashamed of. It's just, yeah, it's just that. Oh, man. But yeah, I don't buy that anymore. At least Amish. I have Amish around here. It's quite possible that Paul was involuntarily celibate. That's true, because Paul's kind of a dick. I mean, when you look at what he does to certain people and how he handles certain situations, yeah, he's not really a nice guy sometimes. Yeah, he may have very well been sexually frustrated. It's possible. Or scared of his male attraction, saying he hangs around with guys all the time. I do I have UK people? I did once upon a time. I had quite a few UK people. I have a lot of Australians now. I have some people from Deutschland and the Netherlands, and certainly the Scandinavian countries are definitely well represented in my chat. I used to have a couple of UKs, but I haven't seen them in a while. So the Amish. Yeah, still. Uh, yeah, it's still advocating for celibacy, but it's not because of sexual purity. He was advocating for it because the world was going to end. He was an apocalyptic preacher, so he didn't see the point of hooking up with somebody if you're just going to die in the next week anyway or be resurrected. But if you can't handle it, it's better to marry than to burn. So but he was definitely pushing that angle. I think he's a lot nicer than St. Augustine was, though. But St. Augustine was like frequenting prostitutes. So when he has his conversion experience, he definitely turns against all of that, except prostitution. So, and lots of Northists. Yes, we have lots of Northists here, according to Fred. So, yeah, it's a cult. If you get past the business side where they're, selling you furniture, and you start looking at how they treat their children, ooh, not good. So, yeah, I should trim pros. All right. Well, let's see what Alan's still. This is only Alan's fourth point. So let's go on to his fifth point.
And then finally, fellas, you want to look for a woman that takes pride in her appearance and takes good care of herself. I want you to notice the amazing wisdom that Naomi, an older lady who'd been experienced and been married before, gives Ruth before Ruth goes and meets Boaz outside of the work environment. It says here in chapter 3, verse 3, "Now do as I tell you, take a bath and put on perfume and dress in your nicest clothes, then go to the threshing floor," so on and so forth. Naomi was trying to say,
and the so on and so forth is make sure you let Boaz get drunk and fed first. So there's that aspect of Northist bigotry is rife. I try not to, Fred. I get it. So let's see. Thank you, Machino TV. What do I think about the whole God-shaped hole arguments? It's ultimately an appeal to emotion and experience. It's not really an argument for the existence of God so much as you have some sort of emotional need for attachment and it plays into it. I look at what the gospel does as a sales pitch, as somebody who used to be a preacher for 20 years and has worked in retail for 15 total. It's a sales pitch of you have this need that you can't fulfill. There's an emotional need you can fill, and God can do it for you. And I think it's ultimately part of the sales pitch of the gospel. But it's not a good argument from a logical point of view of, are you going to open up my chest and prove that there's a God-shaped hole there? Well, I'm speaking metaphorically also. Well, seems like anything else, any God will fill that so-called God-shaped hole if that's your need. But I just don't think those arguments they're not logically based. They're very much an emotional appeal. So, you use that when you feel like somebody is engaged in an emotional side of this. That's when you do for the God-shaped hole. Like, that need that you're feeling, God can meet that. And it's part of the sales pitch. So yes, one of the dirty secrets of the Amish is they do have a high incest rate. So there's that aspect of it. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, smash the like button. Yeah, we've been growing this. It's like all my streams. I start off with about 15 and it keeps growing the longer I go, along with my social anxiety. So it does sound very similar to Esther's story at that point. Like it's funny how many Christians are against makeup and dressing up and all this other crap. But two of the biggest characters in the story of the Old Testament, Esther and Ruth, are basically wash down, scrub down, put your perfume on, put your highest finery on, and go meet the dude. So I've never really gotten that aspect of it from a lot of those Christians. I'm like, yeah, do you read your Bible? So, well, thank you again. Yeah, the problem is a lot of people have like these emotional needs. That's just being human. We all face those moments where we just have these super huge human needs, and we find a lot of different ways to fill them, and not all of them are good. And I would say religion is a bad way to fill that need. It's not real. You're basically creating something fictitious to fill it. And go read, go read your favorite novel instead. Okay, so yeah, Christian will say she had cat-shaped holes because her cats fill that for her, and that's fine. I just recognize that what this is, it's a sales pitch. It's like everybody has these emotional needs where they feel like something's missing, and religion comes along and says, well, we know what that is, just follow us. And it's just a load of shit. So but there's that. Your hole is money shaped. Okay, there you go. See, there you go. Mine is mental peace. Which I never get. And I run a YouTube channel, so it's kind of a weird dialectic. It's weird. All right, let's
Say, hey, I've
Alan
been around the
finish here.
block a few times. I know what men like, and so I want you to take a bath, get yourself all cleaned up, put on some good smelling perfume, put on your nicest clothes, because men are visually stimulated and they're oftentimes looked.
So, does anybody find this hypocritical at this moment where we're talking with one breath about sexual purity and now we're talking about how women should be look good and be sexually appealing? Like, aren't you kind of setting yourself up to fail with the fourth with this kind of advice? I'm confused as hell at this point because point four was, sexual purity, and now we're like, hey, make sure you dress up nice for the dudes, because they're visually stimulated. So, yeah, as Earl said, yeah, pick a lane. I'm trying to figure out where you're at. You're trying to straddle two things. I just, at this point in the video, when I watched the first, I'm like, dude, you just got done talking about sexual purity. And now you're like, dress up good so these guys will chase you. It's like, which one is it? Yeah, visually stimulated. I don't know what blind people do with this because I know blind people still have sex and still are sexually attracted, but okay. Yeah, he's a multi-laner. Oh, paying taxes on both lanes using. Okay, fair enough. Oh man.
Looking for a woman that takes real good care of herself. All of these little things actually serve to increase and enhance the physical desire that you have for someone whenever they take very good care of themselves. So if you're currently dating someone right now, I want to encourage you to ask yourself, does she possess these 5 qualities? If you're a woman, I want you to ask yourself, do I possess the type of qualities that men would actually want to see in a woman that they're going to spend the rest of their life with? If you found this.
All right, I'm going to cut this off at that point because then he's just going to go into the spiel on his channel. But I don't get me wrong. When I date, and I think all of us do this, we check each other out, and I think that's normal. But I also think that I also am like looking for signs that a person takes care of themselves, that the woman takes care of herself, and I think that's not a bad piece of advice. I want to give the devil his due there, where, yeah, looking nice and taking care of yourself is it's not just an indicator of, good physical health. It's some mental health. There's that. Yeah, I'm trying, Ember. I really am. I really am. I don't know. It's the one thing I keep coming back to that I feel like I miss so much coming home to somebody, even though that somebody really didn't give me the time of day. At least they were, especially at the end, it was like, knowing somebody was there at least was a good thing. But yeah, so there's that. Dates or figs. There you go. See, Michael's got it figured out. It's all that. But yeah. I don't know if I'm going to have time. I YouTube too much now, especially stream. Beneath you, keep doing what you. Yep. Yeah, me too. I don't dismiss the contributions of the new atheists, and I think honestly we could really use Hitchens back right now. I honestly think that would be very beneficial. I do miss Hitch because he always had unique takes on things where he showed that he thought about it. But yeah, but thank you very much. I appreciate the compliment probably more than the $5, but it's I've been trying basically to get people to see the nonsense of this stuff and that they'll be better off without it. So it's one of those things. So oh, I'm not streaming while I'm on my first date. Okay, that's fair. Oh, see, this is why I love my community. My community keeps me laughing. You guys are awesome for that. And I want to give you a hearty shout out for that because there are days that I come here, I'm like, oh my God, I don't even want to do this. But by the time I'm done with the stream, I'm glad I did it. And it's mostly because of you guys. So there's that. But, to summarize, let's see if I remember what Parr told me. Okay. So you want a woman that's committed. He doesn't really define that. So that could be somebody who's insane, or somebody that's committed to the people around them. What was point 2 again? I know. Yeah, I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah, that she's willing to do what needs to be done to make the thing work, because she went out into the fields and worked, and then she submitted to advice when she gave it. So there's that, and then the sexual purity, which was immediately countered by, and please make sure that you look. Make sure you look like $1,000,000 for all the men out there if you want to be attractive to them. So on the one hand, make sure you're sexually pure, but on the other hand, continue to be a temptation. So, oh my gosh. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, there's some valid points that Red Pill makes, but I think he picked all the wrong ones. So, I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of a second wave, but I miss their spirit. I miss their combativeness. These days, it's gone beyond combativeness. It's gone beyond dialogue. It's more of just insult people that believe. And I try to avoid that because I used to be a person who believed. Date girls who put out, but marry girls that don't. Okay. Oh, man. I'm reminded of a title of a book. What is it? Written by a psychologist called Nice Girls Do, a long time ago, where she made the point that even nice girls like sex and want to do it. So, still no power at home, Cranky Elder Gun? Did one of your curses go awry and hit yourself? I mean, does that happen with elder gods? I want to know. Inquiring minds want to know, because if I ever go back into believing in something, it's either going to be Odinism or just straight up elder god. Go for it. Yeah. So, but maybe one of your curses has gone awry. Which are often contradictory and illogical. True story. So, illusion of choice and thus control. At least that smart girls do it. Okay, or something. There you go. Believe in Quetzalcoatl. Yeah, he's got the human sacrifice thing, as I recall. Yeah, gosh, wasn't it one of the Star Trek computer games had Quetzalcoatl in it, or he was some sort of alien that had landed on him on the Earth. So there's that aspect. Yeah, I'm not mad at it. I just kind of try to point out that it's damaging. It's always damaged our ability to understand reality. It's like Bertrand Russell says, why would you want to hold on to something that simply isn't based in reality? Why would you want to do that? So it's cuddles just like chicken. From your perspective as an elder god, okay, I can buy that. So, oh, because it. Oh my goodness. Oh, yeah, they probably would. Yeah, I get it, Katie. But I also realize that people are indoctrinated into this shit. And if I get into each believer's past, there's usually some shit that you think, oh, I now absolutely can understand why you believe. Okay, it's some emotional thing that happened to them, and or they have an emotional attachment to it. I get it. I get the indoctrination aspect of it because I used to do the indoctrination, and so I really get that part of it where I feel like there's a I never really can be truly angry at a theist. I really can't be like I hate them kind of thing. I don't have it in my heart to do it, and it's because I used to be one, and I understand it. And as crazy and batshit crazy, off guano loco things can be at times in my country because of religion, it's like I get why people are religious, and it doesn't cause me to get angry as much as it makes me sad anymore. It's like we're following this nonsense because some book says so, and I question that. So, but it's just I don't. I really I have a soft spot in anybody who's believing and trapped by it. Okay, I really look at them as victims of indoctrination a lot. So yeah, yeah, it's a really a new animal to deal with, and I don't know there's data I look at that makes me feel like we're winning, but I also there's data that I look at that I'm not so sure. Yeah, they don't see the mind rape parts of it. I think that's the real part of it. It's like it's an abuse victim, like somebody who's being constantly abused by their abuser and told to love them. I mean, look at the nature of the Bible. It's and the biblical God. He is all about fear me, love me. Okay, and that's how they're taught to react to things. And after a while, it just that's their I really do look at them as like somebody who's in an abusive relationship. They're voluntarily in an abusive relationship with this God that they've made up in their head, and that's probably the saddest part of it. So, but yeah, I've spent many. I get angry at pre-suppers, but I don't get angry at them because they're Christians. I get angry at because their logic is bullshit. Okay, and I don't like dishonorable lying pieces of shit either. I'm not saying I don't get angry at people, but it's usually not because of their faith. I get why people embrace faith. So yeah, it's a really bad abusive relationship when you're in a relationship with God. So yeah, they're starting to say the quiet part out loud, but they were going to do that. Project 2025, the Christians were going to be emboldened by Trump. It doesn't matter. So whether that existed or not, they were still going to do the same thing. Uh, yeah, I have that love. The good old days. uh, Video on how religious indoctrination is mostly abusive, or do you believe that? I do believe it can be. I have to walk a tight line there because I have family members who are still Christian, and I don't want to accuse. See, if we take that tack, how many people are going to be in jail? Like half the country. So, and it could be argued, that it's not just religious indoctrination; it's any ideological indoctrination of children. Because I don't think children have the capacity to judge anything like that. And so you have to watch yourself with the other side too. Just I mean, my whole thing now is just teach your kids how to think, and research and do the mechanics of figuring shit out for themselves. So, but yeah, it's a hard one for me on an emotional level because I also know that from a certain standpoint, parents, because this is like three generations moving into four in my family, and I can see how the original people were also indoctrinated and abused into this relationship. And so it's kind of this cycle that keeps going. And some of us get out of it, but some of us don't. And that's a hard one to deal with. So where is the original abuse? That's the question that I always ask. Where did this come from? And I would blame the people that came up with the religions. So, and most of them are dead. So, yeah. Yeah, we have gone backwards a little bit. This is social trends. I guess I'll put my poli-sci social psychology to a use here. There's always these moments where a political movement will like headway, and then there'll be some moments where it seems like you're going backwards, and you are, but that's an opportunity to kind of self-assess and see what the best way forward is. One of the things I reject is I think social justice warriors should disappear, because you're not going to win over a conservative person with them. That you just entrench them more. And I think that mentality, that argumenting it. Liberalism used to be about talking with people and dialogue, and it got away from that, and it needs to get back to it. So, it's just fucked. Yeah. All right. See you later, Kristen. I was glad you came by and stopped by. Thank you. So there's that. Yeah, it's possible that people blew things up a long time ago. I don't know. I worry. My only chief worry is I worry very much about a president that doesn't seem to understand that he doesn't have all the power. Okay, he doesn't seem to get that little thing. Like you have limits to what you can do, Mr. Trump. You can't do everything. So, yeah, and that's the thing, though. I'm not targeting hardcore theists here. No hardcore theist is ever going to be convinced by anything I say. But I have had a lot of people come here and like, I'm doubting God because my prayers weren't answered. Can you talk to me for a minute? I get that a lot. I look for the people that are on the fence and I push them over. Yeah, I know that sounds like, I'm not looking for converts. I'm just like, if you're halfway there and halfway out, let me talk to you why you need to be all the way out. And those are the people you need to look for. Hardcore people are never going to change. It's why I ban pre-suppers, because they're just hardcore. They're never going to change. They have to come to some moment in their own life where they're going to change. So, yeah. Horrible screaming of the goat. Goat saber, yeah. Oh. My oldest son was the first subscriber to this channel, but he's now a theist again. So he knows, and I'm sure he's talked to his siblings about it. I don't know if they watch my vids or my streams or whatever. I know there's, on average stream, I have 15 people comment, and usually 30 to 40 people watch a little bit. So, all right, folks. Well, we killed Alan Parr. I don't think this is very good advice, so I'm going to have to find some better advice. Maybe if I ever do another special stream, it'll be give advice to the rabid atheist about what he should really think about women and dating in general. That might be a good one. Silence of the Lambs. All right, yeah. But thanks everybody for stopping by. Thanks for hitting the like button. Thanks to everybody who donated. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, do so. I appreciate it. I keep trying to balance this out and get this right, but it was a good one today. You guys earned it, so we did it. No stream tomorrow so far, and that's probably not going to happen. So I'll work on something else and watch a few other streams I've been meaning to watch. So thanks everybody. Appreciate all of you. As always, remember to live your best life. You only get one go around and then it's over. So make sure that you do all the things for yourself and the people you love and care for to make this a better world. You'll be happier if you do. And, don't waste it on the trappings of religion and faith. That's a dead end. I speak from experience. And as always, everybody, thanks for stopping by. And I will absolutely catch you next time.